So I just got done walking on my lunch hour. It's raining. And what I'm realizing is that this space and this time, my lunch hour, that I was dreading and I hated the fact that I have a whole hour in the middle of my day that I have to stay in town and I don't have a good reason why. I want to be home earlier. I want to do this and that. Well, about a month ago, I just made a decision in paying attention to my needs and coming back to what this basic need is connection with our Creator. And so it brought me to this space where I was like, okay, where do I have time to connect? I have my lunch hour, and it kind of happened by accident, honestly, where I started as I had this time period and I wanted to fill it with something that's good for me. And I just kind of wandered to this park here in town and just kind of decided that I enjoyed this one bench that's by a little spring in the middle of the park, by a little pond. And I don't know, by accident, I knew that this is possible. In the past, I've been connected to God in this way where I just saw opportunities in nature to see His goodness and His mercy and the way He operates in the world. You just have to pay attention, honestly. So I use this time to pay attention. And what I've discovered through this process is that He is speaking to me. He's speaking to me every single day. I just had to make the time for Him. I just had to. And so now that I've learned how to make the time to seek God, I've had this really cool thing happen where I long for my lunch hour. And actually today I was thinking, if I didn't have my lunch hour, what am I going to do? I'm going to miss this someday. I had this realization that I'm going to miss this someday. I've not had that realization before in my life with things where all of a sudden it's like, I'm going to miss this. I'm grateful for the rain. I'm grateful for the hour in the middle of my day. I'm grateful for the connection that I have. So when I took the time to think about that today, I was like, oh my goodness. So there's just signs all around me. And today, it, being raining, obviously a lot of times we think of rain as being a negative thing, yeah, it's good. We need rain and everything like that. But sometimes we're like, I wish it wasn't raining out, right? But instead of getting really frustrated today, I wasn't frustrated. Actually, I was like, oh my goodness, it's beautiful. And it might be soothing to walk in the rain. And it was so soothing as I was walking out of my car. I'm just learning to just be present in the moment. And I look down at my feet and there's bricks and there's gravel filled in. It's filled and it looks beautiful. And then I walk a little bit further and I notice that there's streams. There's streams alongside the road. There's streams. And when I started thinking about the streams, I was instantly just flooded with this streams of mercy never ceasing. And then thought about the phrase, bind my wandering heart to thee. And that hymn just kind of came to me out of just looking around in nature. And it was so cool. So I'm just walking and I'm paying attention and I'm watching these streams just flow to the source. and they just keep flowing, and then they're bubbling and gurgling, and the rain just adds to it, and there's dimension, and there's erosion, and honestly, in that beauty, there's a path for the streams to flow. In the erosion, there's paths. And furthermore, when I got down to the pond, and there's just water just sprinkling down and flowing into that, and it's beautiful and it's bubbling, and there's a sound, and I sit down on the bench where I normally sit, and I turn to that hymn and I open it up, and it's exactly the feelings that I was having right now. It's just like that, the streams of mercy. It's like talking about the fact that we're so prone to wander from God, and he just has this never-ending source of mercy and love and contentment for us. We just have to look for him. He's there already. And just being overwhelmed to tears and like feeling that love and joy and excitement in my heart. And then I like started just really looking around for more signs, and it's like it adds a dimension. Like the rain adds a dimension, just like our tears, you know, for God, that just adds dimension to our love and to his mercy to us. It adds something to it. It doesn't take away. And that rain, it just pours down on the land, and it's nourishing the ground, right? So then, you know, also thinking about, you know, there was some washed away areas, and there was a puddle there, like held in that spot. And I was like, you know, those areas of my life that felt washed away, there's this void there, right? There's a void within me, longing for things that I had dreamed were going to be a part of my life, right? Longing for having those pieces like filled in, and seeing that water pouring into that spot and held in that spot. It's like, oh my goodness, God fills in that spot. Those worn away potholes on the sides of our highways of life that we've made, right? There's those pieces and places where it's been washed away, and in that it holds that water. And then I looked over to the side, and I see like piles of leaves, just kind of debris hanging across the road that had been washed over when there was just streams and streams of rain in the last couple of days. And I was like, that's just like his mercy. His mercy, there's evidence. And then there's the song, you know, there's evidence of his goodness all over my life. I love that song. I think it's Josh Baldwin. But anyway, so I'm like thinking about that song, and I'm like, there's evidence all around me. There's evidence that those leaves, they're crumpled up, laying in the middle of the ground. That's evidence that a tree is growing. It's going through seasons. It's getting rid of the filth. And there's evidence that there was death, and now there's new life, these new leaves on the trees. When I'm like looking up around me, there's evidence, you guys. There's evidence in the yuck, the residue that's hanging out. That's evidence of God's mercy and love and grace. Mind-blowing. Be blessed.
Recognize how the water rushes over the little pebbles at the bottom of this spring, and notice how it makes a beautiful noise, the sound of the imperfections and the water hitting that imperfections. And so just like that, God has so much beauty when his grace flows through us and abounds in us. It rushes over those imperfections, and it makes a joyful noise to the Lord.